Kate's taking care of that. Thank you, though, Wendy. And everybody, if you have a question, type it in chat and I'll interrupt, I'll stop Jim and ask your question.
All right. All right. So formally and foremost here, hello, Region 1. I recognize a lot of you as you're popping in on the screen. So it's good to see a lot of familiar faces here on New Year's Eve. So your chorus appreciates you. I do. Your region does for getting together on New Year's Eve. When Karen and I talked about this a couple months ago about having Geek Week, I thought it was a great idea. And those of you who really do know me, I was honored to be like your closing guy on New Year's Eve. So here's our goal tonight. My goal with you is to have you get a basic understanding, whether you're the geek type and you know music theory, or whether it just goes over your head. But for those of you where it might go over your head, I want you to try to stay attuned to it, so at least you get an appreciation for a lot of what makes our art form work. Deal?
Yeah.
Okay. So do you all have, I want to start by doing it this way. We're going to do a little, make ourselves a little visual aid here. Do you have some paper and a writing scribe? If everybody could get that, because I want to give you a little assignment right now. All right, and while you're looking for that, this is an easy thing to remember. Once you find it, could you draw yourself a circle and make it into a clock and put the numbers on there? All right, just look back up when you're done so I know to go on. All right, that's most of you. Okay, so here's what a lot of what we're going to talk about, or I'm going to talk about tonight, is the circle of fifths. Its relationship to our songs and its relationship to our chords. So what you just drew really was a circle of fifths. Now we're going to fill it in a little more. So up at 12, up at noon or midnight, let's write C there. That's going to be the key of C. Whether you write it above or below, it doesn't matter to me. Write it how you want it. Then at 1 o'clock, 5 notes above C. Can you hear this all, everybody? This is C. So if we go 5 notes up, that's G. That circle of fifths. So 5 notes above C is G. That's 1 o'clock. So write G next to 1 o'clock. If you go 5 notes above that, at 2 o'clock, we're at D. And then if we go 5 notes above that, we're at A at 3 o'clock. And then if we start at A at 3 o'clock and go 5 notes, we're at E for, what am I in, 4 o'clock?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 4 o'clock. And then the next one up is B. And these are the names of those keys around the circle of fifths that I'm giving you right now. And then we go 5 notes above that. That happens to be F sharp. And the reason it's F sharp because we're taking the notes from the prior key, which is B. And that has an F sharp in it. So F sharp, what number am I on? Help me, Karen.
6.
6. So 6 is F sharp.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Now, I'm going to blow your mind a little bit here. Let's go back to 12 o'clock, back to noon or midnight. And let's go backwards. And I'm not going to dwell too much on this tonight, but when you go backwards, you get what's called, hold on for this one, the circle of fourths. Because when you take an interval, let's say C to G, I'll hear that that's 1, 2, 3, that's a 5, that's a fifth. But if you go G on the bottom and go G up to C, that's only 4. So 5s become 4s, 4s become 5s. So when you go the other direction on the circle of fifths, it becomes the circle of fourths. And I'll fill in some blanks you might have some questions on. So let's go up to noon, which is still going to be C, either direction, whether it's fourths or fifths. But if we go backwards now to 11 and go back, if we go in fourths, what's a fourth away from C? F. So 11 o'clock is F. A fourth away from F is 10 o'clock, and that's B flat. And 9 o'clock would be E flat. Are you all staying with me? Am I going too fast? And
if you count down backwards, though, C backwards to F is still a fifth down, right?
Right. It depends which direction you go in, and you can prove either point, either direction, backwards, forwards, and go. If I go backwards and count by 5s or go by 4s, I'm going to get the same answer. You're absolutely right. That's why all of this is very interchangeable. And I'm getting to the point where it's going to start to overlap here. Where did I leave off on? What?
9,
Which
E
was
flat, E flat.
E flat. So then 8 o'clock is A flat. Then the next one is D flat. And the next one after that is G flat, which also happens to be F sharp as you go around the circle of fifths. They start to commingle down there around 5, 6, 7 o'clock in that area. And the word for that is their N harmonic. An F sharp is a G flat, just to throw a label at you.
EN harmonic or IN harmonic?
EN with a E as in Edgar.
Okay.
Okay, so what makes the most ideal barbershop song? I've got a tool here, and I'm going to show it to you, and I'm going to give you the information on it. But can you all see this by any chance? It's called the chord wheel, and I don't know if some of you have it. Published by Hal Leonard, written by Jim Flesher, Fleser. And what's ideal about it, if you can see the highlighted, almost Sharpie looking thing here, there's a plexiglass dial that shows you all the interrelationship of all these chords in different keys, depending on where you position that plexiglass wheel. So for those of you who are theory geeks and really love that kind of stuff, it tells you relative minors, it tells you major sevenths, major ninths, diminished sevenths, all that, and how they work and interrelate as you move the dial around. And it's a short little booklet, only about 10 pages, just explaining this wheel. But for those of you who love this kind of stuff, this wheel is a very valuable tool. It's called the chord wheel. Do you want me to hold it steady if you want to get a screenshot or something, or just order it from the guy? Give him his.
I put it up there. It's a WW, and it's on your chat. The third time I finally spelled it right, but
You know, on the back it says www. I think I told you this, Karen.
Yeah.
.chordwheel.com.
right.
I got to contact this guy and say you'd be great for what we do in our art form with this.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we now have built our own personal circle of fifths. And because there's only 12 degrees of the scale, and there's only 12 positions on the clock, it works out perfectly. Nature did that for us. So what makes, where was I? I was saying what makes a good barbershop arrangement is the premise of this. step one is finding a good song that would work well in our art form. What I've chosen tonight was How Many Hearts Have You Broken? I think a lot of you might have sung that or know it. How many hearts have you broken with those great teeth? And here's why I think that song is an ideal example for what we're doing tonight, and it's why I arranged it. It's why we won with it in Phoenix back in 04, is because the song itself. Now hold on here. I might go off the deep end theoretically. The song itself goes through the circle of fifths. This song that we're going to look at happens to be in the key of G. So if you look at your circle of fifths, that's key number 1 on the circle of fifths. Well, you want a song that comes from the composer that works its way through those circle of fifths. Because, and this is where I'm saying I might go off the deep end for some of you, but there's a thing called the dominant of the dominant. And you can keep saying that, the dominant of the dominant of the dominant. What does dominant mean? It means 5. When you say a dominant seventh, it's built on the 5th degree of a scale. And those are the notes that give you a dominant seventh. A dominant seventh does not have to be built on a 5th degree of any scale. It just has to have those intervallic relationships. And that's another class, another night. Like, in order for a chord to be a dominant seventh, it does not have to be built on the 5th degree of the scale. It just has to have those distances between the components of that chord. And nomenclature now calls it a dominant seventh. That's just not our art form. That's everywhere. Because a dominant seventh is this. A major seventh is this. Did you hear that I went from a minor seventh that has nothing to do with the seventh. It puts the third down a half step. So here's a major seventh, dominant seventh. Here's a minor seventh. Can you hear the difference between those? So though, and then there's the good old diminished seventh, which we love. We use that quite frequently in our art form, the diminished seventh. Anyway,
Jim, there's a question that Linda says, I have a dumb question about counting around the wheel.
okay.
So Linda, do you want to ask it?
Yeah, because I really couldn't type it all.
That's
So
okay.
here's the weird thing. When you count up steps, you include the bass note. So when you count from on the wheel from C to G, you count the C. So you say C, D, E, F, G. But when you count backwards, you count those, you go C, B, A, G, F, and that's 5. But you call it the circle of fourths when you go backwards. Why is that?
Okay, because when you go backwards, you don't descend as you go down the keyboard. You still go upward. You still go like if I'm going from 12 to 11, which is C, I go C, D, E.
I see. Okay.
Because if
All
I
right. So
if I were to go downward to F, that's a 5th down.
right. Exactly.
Right.
Okay. So you're still going up fourths, but then you're going to the chord backwards.
I'm going descending. Yes, 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 yes.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense to
Is
me.
that
I never understood that. Thank you.
Anybody else? Karen?
Nope, I don't. I think that answers. There was another question that was said 4, but I think you just answered that. Nope, we're good.
Okay. So I don't know how many of you even remember this, but back in Phoenix in 04, when we did our geek set with the music theory and all that, I used this intro as part of my script. And I talked about how wonderfully it went through the circle of fifths. And I'm going to play the progression of these, and I'm going to call off the chords. And you're going to see how they relate to one another with your ear and your eye at the same time. And it goes, those eyes, I love those beautiful eyes. Don't know why I love those eyes. And I remember standing up there saying it, and I'm pointing to the circle of fifths. I'm getting all geeked out about it, which didn't require much acting. But it's in the key of G, so this is G. All right, so it goes those. There's your one chord. I love those. And then it went to an E, versions of an E chord. Beautiful eyes. So you see that it skips ahead on the circle. Then it goes, don't know. Now it's at an A chord, A7, which is a dominant seventh of the next chord you're going to hear. Don't know why I love those eyes. That's a D7, which is the dominant seventh, which is a dominant seventh, and happens to be the literal dominant seventh of the next chord. That's still D7, and then the song starts on G. How many hearts? So that whole intro takes the chords, take you through a path of, the music does. Let me say it this way. The music and the chords take you through a path of a lot of, through the circle of fifths, which allows a lot of dominant sevenths and ninths, which our art form, cherishes. And then the song goes on, and just a little disclaimer there, the intro is my material. That's something I wrote. I thought, well, I'm going to exploit the circle of fifths. But the song does. It goes, how many hearts? And it goes, G, D, broken. And it goes to an A. Beautiful eyes. That's all A. And we're going to play finesse singing this better than me. But I want to give you an idea of how it sounds. There's a D7. Back to G. C. Back up a slot on the. And then it goes back to G. And then it goes, tell me now. Now we have jumped to B. Ooh. See how far away that is? Somehow we would love to get ourselves back to G. That's the key of the song. And the composer does it. How many times have you kissed somebody? That's all B. Now we're at E. Why you miss me just? And that's E. And it goes, I don't believe you. That's A. Mean it. So we have big showcasing chords like that are on dominant sevenths. Mean it. No, but I rocked it down a half step for arrangement, creativity. And then baby, kiss me again. Now we're back at D. And then it goes back to G for the return of the frame. How many hearts have you stranded? So I want you, we're gonna, if you don't mind, if we're ready to play Finesse's version of this, I want you to be able to hear the. Those kind of progressions.
Jim,
Yeah?
I have a question. When you're going through this, when you're working on a song, this is a stupid question.
No question, stupid.
Well,
maybe.
you might change your mind after you hear this. How do you know, with just the melody, how do you know what chording you're going to do?
Well, when you get a song like this, the song comes with the chording to use.
Okay, all right.
But let's face it. I mean, I picked this because it was ideal for the demonstration. Not every song we encounter goes through this really, I almost want to say, perfect circle of fifths progression. And so it's up to the arranger to make a decision on whether he or she wants to use the chord progressions that come with the song or substitute those chords intended by the composer with something that allows more seventh chords and ninth chords, more of our big three chords to appear. And I'm going to say this out loud and you can quote me. What I found in the last like 10 or 15 years is that there are a lot of arrangements of more popular tunes that are being forced or pushed into our style as barbershop for various reasons, almost destroying the intent of the song the way it came from the composer.
Oh.
And the one I like to use as an example is, it was years ago, maybe 10, 15 years ago. I went to a BHS convention and I heard ABC by Michael Jackson as an uptune. ABC, easy as 1, 2, 3, with barbershop chords all over it. I mean, it was melted canned cheese to me. It was just, I thought, oh my God, now we're and I understand why songs like that they were in their infancy and trying to appeal to a different demographic. I get it, but you know, we're here to be purveyors and preservers of barbershop, because there's plenty of other a cappella music out there. So what made barbershop the interesting from day one was when, and I'm sorry, ladies, but it's when the men went out to the woodshed or to the barbershop, and they didn't have radios and TVs or anything like that, so they sang. You'd have someone singing melody, you'd get a bass guy like trying to sing the bass parts, you could kind of hear that kind of stuff. A tenor would harmonize lightly above the melody, and then the baritone literally would sing what's left over. And that's where we get the term woodshedding from, is that it was created in the moment, on the fly, never written down, all done by the ear. We didn't figure out an overtone series and Pythagorean tuning first. We sang that way, and we lifted certain things to make the sound ring. And our tuning systems, which were already in place for centuries, we figured out we tune just like string quartet tunes. And if any of you play string instruments, you know what I mean about the subtle differences between an F sharp and a G flat and Pythagorean tuning and just tuning and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, I'm kind of off on a tangent here. But Karen, could we play How Many Hearts? And I really want you to listen for the just overwhelming predominance of these kind of chords. Those are all our chords. And this, I believe, is Finesse from the UK.
Those eyes, beautiful eyes, don't know why I love those eyes, great big eyes. How many hearts have you broken with those great big beautiful eyes, those great big beautiful eyes that tell beautiful eyes. Tell me now, how many times have you kissed somebody like you kissed me just then? Well, I don't believe you mean it, no, but baby, kiss me again and again. How many hearts have you stranded on that dreary road to romance? Baby, I'll take a chance. I need some loving. I just can't resist you, even though I'm wise to how many hearts you have broken with those great big beautiful eyes. Over and over I'm telling you, honey, don't you know that I can't resist you? Doesn't matter how I try. My heart will just have to be broken by your great big. I fell in love with you first time I looked into his great big beautiful eyes. Your eyes.
Wow, nice job, Finesse. I miss them.
I know.
Now, Karen, is there any way we could listen to that and screen share the copy of the arrangement? So those of you who see chords will be able to see what you just heard and listen for, you know, oh, they flattered a step. They should be here.
Kate has that. I don't know if she can do both at the same time, but we do have an audio recording and the sheet music.
I'm gonna figure it out. Give me a second.
Okay.
I also have to get the video back to the right spot, so hold on.
Sorry to load this on you last minute if it is.
Okay. Well, Kate's amazing.
So give me some kind of feedback visually. Could you all hear how strong the song is? I'm not looking for any kind of arrangement, kudos. How strong that song is for our art form and how it lends itself to a lot of the harmonizations that are going to make our chords ring. And that's another class that has to do with overtone series and dominant ninths and sevenths and tonics. And
All right, I think we can do it this way. I think we got it.
He says,
so when I wrote the intro, I wanted a strong tonic chord start. That's why I have that nice triad on I's. It's an A vowel. And then the bass is doing embellishment.
Okay.
Then in measure
those eyes, I love those beautiful eyes. Don't know why I love those eyes.
All these seven,
Eyes. How
measure
many hearts
6.
have you broken with those great big beautiful
A7,
eyes? Those great big beautiful
E7,
eyes that tell
E7,
beautiful
C sharp
lies.
diminished,
Tell me now, how many times
E.
you kiss somebody like you kissed me just then? Well, I don't believe you mean it, no, but baby, kiss me again and again. How many hearts have you stranded
No worries.
on that dreary road to romance, baby? I'll take a chance. I need some loving. I just can't resist you, even though I'm wise to how many hearts you have broken with those great big beautiful eyes. Over
Well,
and
like
over,
the
I'm
second
telling
chord,
you, honey, don't you know that I can't resist you? Doesn't matter how I try.
you really don't need this first chord, that flourish.
My heart will just have to be broken by your grace. Big, I fell in love with you first time I looked into his grace. Big, beautiful eyes. Your eyes.
Now, I'm sure you all noticed some things different on the arrangement than what you heard, but that's up to the performer's choice. And some of the changes on here, some of the changes that are on here are not part of my arrangement, but by and large, it's pretty close. Like a little aside here, and I'll just say this out loud, like that embellishment you see printed on the very last word on eyes, and then the bass does something. I would never do that because I think that disturbs the ring of that final chord until the basses eventually arrive at that final note. And that final note is, man, I love those eyes. Fun to do. But in a contest, that puts the bass so low compared to where the other three parts are. I just think that's a dangerous thing to do. So that's an aside. But that's not something I arranged it that way. The first chord of measure 53, it was my final chord. Love those eyes. And that's what you hear. A lot of versions do that. But to go, I love those eyes, it starts pulling the bass away, way farther down in the range, thus making it harder to ring and balance the cone and the chord and all that. And it's a big ah vowel at the end of an uptune. Tenors and leads are going to be having a great time up there, but basses are going to be struggling to be. Can you see how I see that balance?
Mm-hmm.
I don't even have to hear it. Maybe this is a good time. Anybody going to get any questions on this arrangement or the song or particular moments in it, like why I chose certain things? I mean, I could go through it because as things were going by, I'm like, oh, I remember why I chose that chord. If you want me to do that.
I think that'd be a kind of a cool idea, Jim. I was also wanted to mention when you said it's good for barbershop, I noticed how close, and even when I heard it, how close those chords are. Is that a good sign for it? I mean, is that also indicative of how well the song is written for the clock?
You know, you're right. You got a perfect question, Karen. And that's something arrangers decide when they choose a key to arrange their song in. First of all, I mean, it's got to be able to fit the melody singer, the lead singer, but then is it going to take you too high or too low to enable roots and fifths of chords in the bass? So you got to be very aware of those kinds of things. Oh, now what was your question? I think I just went off course.
That's all right. Laurel just said, so tight chords are better than spread chords?
And that's a preference, and there's two terms here that everybody should know: closed voicing and open voicing. Closed voicing means all four notes are within one octave, like lowest note, highest note. That's closed voicing. Now, if it were open voicing, it would be this, where the voicing goes bigger than an octave. And I think the more you stray into open voicing, the harder it is in our art form to preserve the balance that we need to have to make our sound bass predominant. And that's not that's in the sound category. Barbershop is a bass predominant sound. Sorry, leads. But we need that anchor of the bass. All music does through the centuries. We need to feel where we're anchored harmonically, and that's what bass does. And the farther a chord is spread out, the more open voiced it is. When you start putting tenors up on, high Fs, and try and balance a chord like that, and basses are down here, and say the word happens to be an A vowel, has an A vowel in it. Well, tenors are going to outbalance the basses down here trying to go in most ensembles. So that's kind of dangerous now because, and you might hear it in the melody or chorus sound. I loved closed voicing, the kind of voicing that goes. I'm not a big fan of open voicing, which would go. That kind of stuff, where the parts are farther away. I think we have a better chance of locking, ringing, and having a thrilling sound with closed voicing than we do with, at least my group does. But that
I
doesn't
also have
Sure.
a Melodiers recording, Jim, if you want to play that for contrast as well.
Of how many hearts?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Yeah, do you want to leave the sheet music
showing
off?
off my chorus. Why not? And this was
Just
from.
Yeah,
Right.
just that way it's different. So let me make sure I can reshare and make sure my sound is shared.
I have a couple of questions, Jim, while Kate's getting ready. Somebody said, it looks like embellishing tones and dissonances are off. Oops, wait a minute. Let's see, did I lose? I think I lost my chat. Oh, here we go. It looks like embellishing tones and dissonances are off the beat except for key changes. And somebody said, does the closed voicing ring better because of which overtones are being produced?
Oh man, that's a two-part question, and let me answer the second half first.
Okay.
As an arranger, I have learned through the years, especially with my own chorus and quartets that I have done arrangements for, and I also coach them, and I'm going to geek out on you. There's a fixed overtone series for any note we sing. So what you don't want to have is have some of the higher audible overtones from lower voices like baritone and bass, or maybe baritone and lead, being covered by an actual tenor pitch. And that would kind of mean that the tenor is a little higher. So closed voicing usually enables more ring because we can hear harmonics generated by lower voices easily, or more easily, if the tenor and the lead are not covering them. Like a lot of times we hear coaches or directors, and I say this to my chorus all the time. If you're on the upper of an octave, you have basses here. The top octave does not need to have as much predominance because you know what? That's the first overtone of the lower octave. So that's what I'm trying to say in this bigger grand scheme of things. If the notes on the page and the singers are closer together, we have a better chance of hearing notes up here ringing that are overtones and not humans. But that doesn't mean we don't want to show off and showcase our tenors with some high thrill moments. Right, Annette?
Oh, Jim, yes, thank you. I also, and some of us here at class tonight have the arrangement of yours that has, I love those beautiful eyes, the arpeggio up from the basses, and
I love those.
Last-
those
Right.
I love those beautiful eyes. Right.
we also have, and the very last chord is simply the lovely one chord, and there's no da-da-da-da-da. So
Right. Okay.
some of us brought the music to class tonight.
Well, and you know what? You'll hear that as you listen to it. If you can remember, everybody, as the way Finesse. I don't know how Finesse did measure one with the basses. I've forgotten already.
Oh, they did. I love those beautiful eyes.
Did they do that?
Yes.
I would always, as an arranger, and this is what this class is for, like chord strength, measure one on that downbeat. On an A vowel, I have my basses singing with the top three parts, and they go, those eyes, because it just adds strength and entrance bravado to the moment. And then they go on going, I love those, and then beautiful eyes, and they go on the way you see it. Now, whoever and why ever this was changed, it's very creative. It certainly works. But I think as an arranger, I try to think what's going to show off the sound of any ensemble. Putting a bass on a downbeat, on an A vowel, on measure one, to me seems like a really good thing. Instead of automatically throwing them into an embellishment that aren't necessarily on that chord's strong notes. I love those is a whole lot different than eyes. Get that established, then go on.
You ready for the
Yeah.
melodiers?
Yeah, sure. I'm always ready for them. So I don't know if my preference is going to wear off on you or not, but could you hear the difference between eyes and just hanging out there without going, I love those eyes. Save that for a show. Don't do that on contest. There's my wisdom to keep our art form clean and not filled with gimmicky little things. So, but I'm hoping you're all hearing why this is such a good song. And I'm not doing this to lobby for my arrangement because we don't get paid for them like we used to. So I'm not lobbying for it. But this is the reason you hear that. And I know this, I've been in the audience. We all hear those eyes. And there's a little bit of a groan factor. And after you've heard it the fourth time in a contest. But why do you hear it 4 times? Because it's so strong in 30% of the music category. And just to refresh your memories, the music category has a 30%, 70% category weight division. 30% of that is about the song and its arrangement, voicing, chord progressions, use of merit as barbershop material, all of that. It has nothing to do with its performance. That's 70% of the category. So we've been talking a lot about the 30%, what makes good, strong chords. We've had some voicing questions about like open and closed voicing. I'm a big fan of closed voicing for those of you who arrange or are budding arrangers. I just think, just by its definition, things sound tighter when they're in closed voicing. And that's what we hear out in our pop world when we're listening to, you know, the a cappella world out there. That's not barbershop. We hear a lot of closed voicing.
True.
With a lot of like a bass guitar human.
Jim, I would love to know some of the choices that you made that were definite. You said as you were going by, you remembered that. And so could you point some of those out to us?
Sure.
Oh, wait a minute. There's Laurel said, I love bass hangers. Do you have a preference for ring over another part?
Well, we do a lot of bass hangers. I like that because you can hear their first octave when they're all matched in placement and vowel. Like when the basses are hanging there at the end before the last chord and they're by themselves, you cut the chord and they're just there and I can hear it's like a tenor forgot to cut off because you can hear those upper harmonics ringing.
There's another question.
And when tenors do that, when tenors do hangers, you know, I'm talking like in the F or the G territory. To hear their first overtone an octave above that is hard to locate with your ear. You don't feel it. You just hear the buzz and the crackle of the sound.
I have 2 comments, 1 question. Wendy Pachter said closed voicing is much more immersive as well. And Karina.
Oh, Wendy, I love that word, immersive. Love it.
And Karina said, do you think closed voicing is best for female voices in particular? Is it the same for male arrangements?
No, and I've done arrangements on both sides of the gender line. And if anybody plays a piano, you'll hear it because I'll demonstrate. When you start putting harmonics together, the lower you go in the human hearing range, the cloudier the sound because every note from that chord, and I'm saying a low chord, you hear a lot of their overtones. Like when I play a chord like this, that's not as clean as, or you can hear the shimmer even on a piano. So when you have human voices going, there's a muddiness to it because so many overtones that our ear is catching. And so it's an overwhelming harmonic sound. Can you hear that over Zoom? The difference between like this, you know. And when you do open voicing for men, it's something where you might put a bass down here. A B here and a tone. That's manageable. Especially if it's not loud, because it's so low for the two parts. You start doing that up in the female range, that tenor note is going to have trouble balancing with the bass note. It's the way the different genders' voices are built and where our range strengths are. And that's not me, that's just human physiology.
Okay.
Yeah, but we've all heard, I'm going to say this in public. How many times do we try to sing down where the men sing? Not nearly as much as the men try to sing where women sing. I mean, some of us guys' tags, I mean, they're up. I mean, they're out of Kip Buckner range already now, you know? Well, and that's because we have that advantage on the top part of the male range because of falsetto. For a lot of men, that's a pretty limitless kind of range up there. So I don't know if that answered anybody's question or I just went off on a tangent. But you know what? I think I was going to say I was going to go back through the arrangement and tell you why I made some of these choices. Take a look at measure 9 on the third line. How many hearts have you broken? Eyes. That's the chord for the word eyes. Eyes. Well, to stretch that out for the next measure, no, I'm on measure 9 right now. Eyes. To stretch that eyes chord out all the way through measure 9 without an embellishment would be kind of dull to the listener. So that's why I simply just went eyes. And I think if I remember hearing it right, Melodies added the word those right there. We went
Yes, they did.
those great. And we sang the word those on the eyes chord. And we went those great big, just to give measure 9 a little more rhythmic fun by having an embellishment. Sometimes we forget embellishments are great rhythmic providers. And there's another one coming up on measure 11 with the baritones. And then they go, great big, beautiful, and they go, eyes, just to keep the rhythmic spice going during a long held melody note. So that was some of my wisdom in putting that in there. Exactly, right there. Now this is just right off the sheet music as far as chords. How many times have you... And for those of you who have sung this arrangement, this is not me, this is the song. Measure 17 for the leads. Like a kiss me just then. A lot of leads like to sing, like a kiss me just then. Well, that's the baritone note. And if you've ever sung this song, you've probably encountered that. So that's just a beware. I don't believe you mean it. I think no was only in there once, the way we did it. I think I got rid of the no, just because it rang better to keep the O vowel constant. I don't believe you mean it, no, but baby. And those are really strong dominant sevens. No, but baby. And I didn't have all this business on 21 and 22. That was added by somebody else. Kiss me again. I did not have a key change like this provides. Then we went right on, but for the sake of the example, I'm going to play it in the key I see. How many hearts have you broken? I'll take a chance. I don't think that's the rhythm that came with the song. I think it went, baby, I'll take a chance. And we went, baby, taking a chance, or something like that, which we all do. And that's part of our art form, is to have fun with rhythms and manipulate where we're going to breathe to add artistry and character to our stories and to the phrasing, especially in the music category part. I need some lovin' is how the song goes. And I'm the one who put in the lovin' just to get character out of what would otherwise have been 4 really long chords. Need some lovin'. And so I added need some lovin' just to give it a little dress and sass. I just can't resist you. Even though I'm wise to how many hearts you've broken with those great big beautiful eyes. There's where the song ends. Right there, exactly. And so I wrapped it around by going ba 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 honey. Now there's so many variations of the stomp. What you heard, what you see, and all that, they're all different. It doesn't matter. That's all good. That's what we do. So we go, honey, don't you know that I ain't gonna resist you, which we've already heard with the swing tempo. Honey, don't you know that I'm gonna resist you earlier in the song. Now, to make the song have interest, I wrapped it around. We if there's such a word, stompified it. And then showcased just barbershop isms on try on measure and end of 41, 42. Doesn't matter how. There's where those swipes go. And then there's an extra one that I put in there that you don't need, and that's this one. Where some of the notes stay the same between the last chord and the next to the last chord there, but some change. That's what kind of links it together. It goes, these two stay, and baritone and bass change. Now, that kind of throws you out of, and this was, I think this happened along the way when we were learning the song. I'm going back 16, 17 years. I think there used to be a chord on my, when I first arranged it, the very next moment, after try, to get a chord locked in tune after that extra chord on try, which kind of takes you out of the key. Can you kind of feel that? For just excitement's sake? And then to try to go to a chord on my was challenging. So, and this seems like really good logic, Jim, is I made it all unison, which would make it easier to find, and that's the note the tenor's left off on. And on try, you can't miss that on try, and then it's everybody converged on the same note. It made it easy then to pick it up in key without slop on the word my. Going on to my heart is going to be broken. And then a lot of this is tag material. Like I doubled the length of the duration on great and big. Broken by your great big to allow for barbershop swipes on great and big in measure 45 and 46, just to allow for swipage, because that's part of our style. And then good old stock material, tenors posting. I mean, those are all wonderful barbershop dominant 7s and 9s. Now, I could have ended it there, but why? More flourish went, those eyes. And then we have that last chord there on 53. Did that help you understand the craziness in my mind when I'm putting an arrangement together?
Well, I think for, what's great about this, I think, is that I think some of we directors, many directors or many of chorus members don't realize the license we have to tailor an arrangement to work for us. And that's essentially what you've done is you wrote the arrangement, but you tailored it in some places by the swipes that you used and the things that you did, by doing the unison note. And I think it's kind of cool to know that. There's a question now, Jim. I have, how do you decide which note of the dominant 7th chord should be in the bass part?
Okay, great question. The strongest notes of any chord, which are the root and the 5th, you want in the bass. Like in a dominant 7th, if this is the chord, those are all different voicings, but no, that's the 5. This is the 1. I'll put the 3rd on the bottom, and you'll see that it sounds a little weaker. And we rarely put the 3rd or the 7 in there unless it's part of an embellishment, like going that kind of. It's in passing.
Okay, there's another question.
You know what? Let me say, here's why I'm very aware of that, because like a dominant 7, if the bass is on the root, its second overtone is this note, which is above the chord. So you get an ancillary benefit there, not even ancillary. You get to hear the ring of certain pitches above the human chord by making sure your basses are on roots and fifths most of the time, which are going to be relatively low, but you know, that's what basses signed up for.
I have another question, Jim. So do you purposely follow the circle of fifths when you're arranging, or do you hear in your head what you want and then write it? How geeky are you when you arrange? Just curious.
Well, you know, I'll let you in on a little arrangement I'm doing now. Not a little one, it's a big one. It's Melody's next big contest opportunity. It's hit me with a hot note and watch me bounce, which in the shell of the song, it follows a good harmonic progression that gets you through a circle of fifths. But because there's a lot of syllables and a lot of moving around notes, hit me with a hot note and watch me, there are chords between the shell of the harmony and I try to make sure that I find ways to highlight passing melody notes with passing chords. Did that answer the question you just asked?
It's Laurel. Laurel, answer him yes or no. Is that good for you?
Well, kind of, but I'm wondering, are you hearing it in your head first, or are you strategically going, okay, this is this chord, so in the circle of fifths, it has to go there next? I'm wondering what your thought process
Well,
is.
it's a little bit of both, but you know, and Laurel, we know each other. We've worked with each other. I hear a lot of that in my head, and I play a lot of air piano in my life, even when I'm driving. I shouldn't. All right, play it on the steering wheel, where I can hear chords and I can hear voicings, or even with this arrangement I'm doing now, I would think of ideas, you know, as I'm driving around, I'd play them on my steering wheel, and I'm like, that's what I'm going to do when I get back to my computer. It's because I heard them, but I don't try to, you know, if I have to keep, and let me say it this way, if I have to keep looking for ways to find chords that ring in our style, there's a bigger message to be heard. And that is, maybe that's not the best song to be done in a competition arena. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't be progressive, and we've been using 1-4-5-1 as our chord progression since Bach. There's plenty, that's what rock and roll uses, that's what everybody uses. So there's plenty of material out there. We don't have to stick to material that was done, you know, in the late 1800s and then has lyrical and message challenges. There's plenty of material out there, but if you have to really force something into hearing a lot of dominant sevenths and ninths and all that, then the song is saying, maybe not for your art form. Doesn't mean the song's bad. Did that help answer?
Yep, thanks.
Good. Anybody else have questions for Jim? Because we're rounding out our time with him now. Oh, no.
Oh, no. Well, hey, you know what, you guys? You've got this chord wheel posted somewhere on your website or whatever, right? And if you're really interested in this, what is so amazing about it is that this is why you called it Geek Week, and I'm here on your last night. The inner circle, is the circle of fifths. Then the next circle out from that tells you its relative minors and the dominant sevenths of those relative minors. And if you're not sure how to figure it out, you just rotate this dial to any key you want. Even says key right here, point it at a key, and it gives you the chords that work the best. And if you're a guitarist and you point this to any key and you say, I'm going to play in the key of E, you're going to play a lot of these chords that are in this wheel. So,
I have another question.
yep.
Do we use the relative minors much in barbershop?
Yeah. Well, much is, that's a word that needs to have a little qualification on it. We don't want songs that are predominantly minor because one of the notes in our series of overtones is a major third. So if the basses are singing this way up here, and if we're singing a minor chord, they don't ring as well. You don't hear the clash as it's being performed, but a good song to use as an example, I think, is Gershwin's Summertime and the living is easy. Well, that's all minor. It's written in a minor scale. There are major chords in that, but it's predominantly minor. So it doesn't give you the harmonic opportunities to show off what's going to ring in the hallmark of our style. Now, do major songs have minor elements in them? Absolutely. Try to find me a song that's in a major key that doesn't have moments of minor. One that comes to mind right away is, how can I tell thee? What is that called? Da, 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 da.
How deep is the ocean?
Right, how deep is the ocean? Well, it's got that one little measure of minor. How deep is the major seventh? Ocean, minor. How deep is it? And it goes back a few times, and then it gets to major. So, in my mind, that song works perfectly, because if we're going to start, I'm speaking more philosophically than letter of the law, so please remember that. But if we're going to start having to censor songs, and I totally understand this because of their language, that's offensive, and I totally get it. And then we're gonna make minor a bad thing. We're gonna run out of material if we keep closing the parameters on what made our art form our art form. So, that's just my philosophy. Nothing beats a good ringing chord in the major mode. That's what we do.
I have another question from Wendy Pachter. If you were writing an arrangement for a small chorus, would you have less complexity in your harmonies?
Yes, absolutely. I might be less, what's the word? Overzealous on embellishments, because embellishments, and Karen, this is your category, you get it, they tend to throw our competitors or performers out of sync unless handled really well. So if you're a smaller chorus at a level, and I'm not going to say any certain kind of level, but if you're a smaller chorus, something that doesn't have as many embellishments and have as, some of these, like this chord. You have to have really good tuning skills to make that last chord work. And I'm sure you've heard both, Karen, as you travel in the pit. And so that might not be something you would want to challenge a lower level or a smaller chorus with. Plus, you need stamina there. You need air. And the more involved an arrangement is, the more air we need. Air is our fuel. It's what goes through the pipe of our instrument and makes our vocal cords go. And if we're physically challenged, that's another piece of arranging too. I do custom arrangements, okay, am I doing this for my own chorus, which, or Scottsdale where they jump around on trampolines and can sing A plus, that's not something you'd want a B level chorus to be doing.
Right. Right.
Right. I hope that answered it, Wendy.
There's and somebody did look up the chord wheel is $13 on Amazon, and you can have it by Monday.
Right. I think it says $12.95 on the back of my copy here.
Yep. Okay. Okay, I have one other thing. Somebody said from Wendy Cudmore, how have the Melodiers been rehearsing during COVID?
Well, we're trying. When we first started, we were pretty adventurous, but that kind of got cumbersome to do. We had 6 new songs over the last year, since like March, St. Patty's Day, when we shut down in Illinois. Some of those came with learning tracks, and that's how we have to sing on Zoom. If you guys do Zoom, you have to sing with a pre-recorded track. I arranged a new contest ballad for my chorus, and I met with my music team in the parking lot of our rehearsal facility, and we made learning tracks to launch that song. Well, we've been singing with those learning tracks all summer long. The song, I don't think, is progressing. I can't hear them. But I know if we're singing with that strict learning track, it's just, they're singing it strict. So we're getting learning tracks made by Jen Cook, and her and I are doing FaceTime where I'm going to direct her, and so we get some interpretive values on that. We've had sectionals. We've split up. We've broken up into rooms. We've done some fun things like not on rehearsal night. We've had a wine night, like some kind of wine sale where I don't know. I don't go to it. I don't like wine. And we've also had people come in, like some of our coaches, not some, all of them, Betty and Lori and even others that I respect their opinions. Ryan Heller, Angela Sirachi, they've all come to my course and given half an hour little workshops on some area that I asked them to focus on. But for all of you, know that your chorus leadership, especially your musical leadership, is doing everything I'm sure they possibly can to make your weekly meetings as productive and varied and interesting as possible. It's not easy. Give me live people any day.
For sure.
Yep, real people would be great.
Yes.
They would be.
Oh, hi, Gail.
Hello, Jim. How are you? Happy New Year.
You too.
So Linda Cupson wanted to know if is it W-I-N-E or W-H-I-N-E as your wine night?
Oh, there's no H.
So are there any more questions for Jim? This has just been wonderful tonight. Jim, you're the ultimate geek and you were the best guy to have on New Year's Eve. Somebody wrote, thank you so much for coming this evening. Please. Oh, this is us. We're doing an evaluation after this. So everybody make sure you fill in your feedback form, please. That would be great. And somebody wrote, Wendy Pachter is doing a great job with BSC.
Good.
And
Well, so's Karen with HOTS.
so thanks, Wendy. So somebody said this has been really informative to see what is behind all those notes. And thanks, Jim. Great seeing you from Laurel. So
A lot of you. I know a lot of you. We've worked together. So what a good night to have a little reunion from my point of view, being selfish.
well, it's great. Just been, what else are we going to do tonight?
I know.
So
Not anywhere. I'm just going to lounge on my couch and watch probably, Times Square in Chicago.
empty Times Square.
Yeah. And then go to bed.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm not even going to last that long.
Well, I always like going outside to hear the fireworks and the gunshots. Well, this is Chicago. Gunshots go along with it.
My God, that's awful.
You can tell the difference. You can.